and families.
Senator Whish-Wilson.
Thank you, Mr President. Sadly, after 30 years in Tasmania, the state Liberal and Labor parties still both share the same single, tired vision for the future of jobs and prosperity in Tasmania. A price-taking pulp mill, producing a low-value, high-cost, undifferentiated commodity, built on the quicksand pit of a corrupted assessment process and community conflict. The revival and inclusion of the pulp mill in the current political debate leading up to Tasmania's state election, formally by Premier Lara Giddings when she recalled state parliament to pass new enabling legislation designed to help Guns liquidator Kortamentha find a new investor in the failed project, is a sad indictment on what is wrong with Tasmania's political leadership. The Greens were the only party to oppose this dodgy legislation, and as if right on cue, Greens leader Nick McKim was mistakenly denied the opportunity to move a no-confidence motion in the state Labor government prior to the tabling of the legislation. Although right in front of the Speaker, he was missed out of the corner of the Speaker's eye. The old parties in Tasmania seem to have no new ideas, no new vision, and a singular focus on the ever-reliable push buttons of division. Conflict and division is the currency of Tasmanian politics, and it has always devalued Tasmania and our progress. Just last week, a group of vineyards who sent a letter to Tasmanian state MPs expressing well-researched and heartfelt doubts on the project proceeding in their tourist valley were viciously targeted by pro-mill groups in a campaign to boycott their wine sales, as my mother herself was this week. They also posted on Facebook and promoted banners from the Cancer Council, clearly altered, claiming that Tamar Valley wines give you mouth cancer. Such is the hatred and division in Tasmania, built up over so many years and always so readily exploited by some politicians to their own party political advantage. I understand the anger from many over a loss of jobs in Tasmania, in industries failing in competitive global markets, the likes of which we've also seen recently in Victoria and South Australia. But it is more cruel to string out such people by offering them false hopes of a project that was never economically viable and only ever got to parliamentary approval by a highly unpopular and corrupted process. What makes this mindless zombie obsession with the failed proposed Tamar Valley project all the worse is that there is no plan B from Labor or Liberal, no serious political recognition of other state-building economic strategies. Only the Greens have released a comprehensive vision strategy for the next 20 years of economic development in Tasmania that doesn't centre around a pulp mill and a failing native forest timber industry. And talk about opportunity costs and wasted opportunities. The lengths that the Tasmanian polity, our state's brain trust, has gone to waste the waste of political energy on this doomed project is quite extraordinary. The lengths governments have gone to avoid legal scrutiny, close loopholes and cover the legislative tracks in attempting to deliver this project for vested interests is bewildering. Tasmanians must wonder what could have been achieved if such talents and energy had been put to focusing on growing other businesses and industries that Tasmania actually has a future in line with our competitive advantages such as agriculture, education, ICT, healthcare and tourism. And I believe the opportunities are there for all in Tasmania, but not if you are blinded by ignorance, stupidity and a lack of political will, or perhaps it may be because it's not in your short-term political interest to back in change. There are plenty of success stories in Tasmania across many industries that never get highlighted. Even if the Tamar Valley Pulp Mill was economically viable and environmentally sustainable, which I believe it is not, it would never receive community approval or a social licence. The never-ending cascade of assessment and public relations disasters, including high-profile political and corporate failures, underpinned why the community forever lost confidence in this pulp mill project. Last month's recall of the Tasmanian Parliament to again do a big corporation a special favour is yet another example. By passing retrobate legislation to remove doubt surrounding the pulp mill permits, widely criticised in the legal fraternity around this country, Labor and Liberal MPs and many MLCs removed a key clause that automatically suspends operations if the pulp mill breaches permit conditions, such as well-known hideous odour emissions or the dumping of industrial waste into oceans and ecosystems. Is it realistic that such permit conditions may be breached? Yes. Although it took 10 years of legal action, just last month in Chile, the Valdivia Pulp Mill, owned by pulp giant Selco, was fined US $10.5 million for damage to local wetlands and ecosystems, including the deaths of hundreds of swans from its toxic pulp mill effluent. A similar craft pulp mill in Chile, the Licancel mill, also discharged effluent to the Mosquito River, killing fish and damaging the livings of local fishermen. Both mills have been subject to repeated legal challenges, fines for breaches of environmental laws, and have often been shut down and forced to comply. And guess what? Both mills are the same technology as the proposed pulp mill for the Tamar Valley, and hard as it is to believe, Tasmanian MPs, all who voted for the doubts removal legislation, visited these pulp mills as part of a Guns-sponsored tour prior to the original legislation. So, you would expect government has at least learned from this. Right on some accounts, wrong on others. Wrong because it's been made clear, but ignored to date, that the Tamar Mill has never stacked up on key independent studies of proposed effluent treatment and dispersal. And right because Tasmanian decision-makers have obviously learned what's happened overseas by putting in special clauses in legislation to prevent any future proponent from having to shut down the mill if they breach their conditions. Yes, they've transferred risks from investors and the proponents onto the community and to the environment. Mr Acting Deputy President, I and many Tasmanians have and will continue to campaign against this zombie pulp mill and for a better Tasmania. My local Green MP and friend Kim Booth has stood steadfast and strong as a community leader throughout and is now up for re-election. The community of Bass needs Kim because of his moral strength and courage. One good thing that has arisen in this last sorry saga and from 10 years of conflict is the community's continued determination to see change. Even in the face of all obstacles, including obvious government abuses of power. There are so many good people who have done so much, or in their own way contributed to stopping this toxic pulp mill project. Too many to name here tonight, but I do want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to them all. And as well-known Tasmanian Peter Cundall has so often said, we will never give up.